Unlike the AP that only looks like it's watching you with its centrally placed jewel, the Apple Watch will literally not just watch you, it will monitor you. It will tell you, Apple, your blood sugar, if you fell, if you're sweaty, it will do everything. Oh, it will advise you, it will recommend, it will give you unsolicited advice on how loud your environments are. It will literally do everything.
Greetings everyone and welcome to aBlogtoWatch Weekly. Do remember, if you can't wait to Thursday or Friday to get the show on your Spotify and Apple podcasts, you can go straight to YouTube anytime after Tuesday morning and see the live recording of the show. Particularly valuable watching this week because seeing Ripley and Ariel looking quite as tired as they are is actually...
It's 6 hours there and 6 hours back.
I thought you Americans were like, yeah, we just drive and everything's, distance is nothing to us. All you small European countries.
It still takes energy. And you have to play like wait behind the big rigs as they pass each other. That's always a fun game.
Right,
the audacity of some of them where it's like, this is this world's slowest overtake. It's one truck passing another over the course of 4.5 miles.
And why are there no watch ads in the middle of nowhere? All this cheap advertising real estate.
You think that's the solution is watch adverts in the back of trucks?
All anybody thinks about when they're on a long drive is what time it is.
Well, listen, if there's a watch brand out there, I've got about 900 of those trailers. If you want to advertise your watch in the back of them, then feel free to get in touch.
But you need to have a nice snarky slogan. You can't just have a pretty picture of a watch. It's got to say something eye-catching.
Something about being stuck behind. Like, welcome to the 18th century where you're going slower than everybody else or something. Or this is the speed.
Yeah, I don't know the roads. I can't say.
And what is your in-car entertainment, gentlemen? Are you podcast listeners, music, silence, the sound of your own breathing and heartbeat?
I just listen to us and get to live back my earlier conversations.
How far back do you need to go? Has anyone actually listened? Does anyone listen to this show after we record it? I try to avoid it.
He needs to refine his on-screen personality. Come on, he's doing the good work.
He needs to
Let
check
him be
he's
an
not
inspiration to us all. While I eagerly avoid my own voice at all costs.
He's got to avoid re-wearing something that he's already worn. He needs to go back and check because we don't.
I send every single video to the PR companies and say, "What's missing in my wardrobe? Please supplement."
I bet you do, and I bet you that works in some cases. Anyway, right, let's make a start, and let's make a start with why you gentlemen were together and why you're all dead tired now. And this is because of the release of these. First up, the Apple Watch series in aluminium and titanium, and then we'll talk a little bit about the slightly more sporty one. But first of all, give us the vibe. What's it like being for want of a better expression, an old world blog about old world things, turning up to all the tech bros? Like when the guys from The Verge introduce themselves to you and say, and you go, we're from aBlogtoWatch.
Tech writers do not speak to one another unless it's absolutely required. That's one thing you'll learn right away. It's not that it's not friendly, but there's no making friends. Let's put it that way, okay? No one's making friends over there. It is a very exciting environment because you have people coming there from all around the world, and especially certain people, like they're really excited. They go and they post on Instagram or social media, TikTok, like right away. They got audiences that want to see the latest AirPods. So there's those types of people that are these kind of new era tech writers. There's also the old school guys. There's also people that, write for the newspapers and stuff like that. And those professionals are still there. But there's sort of this new crop, again, from all around the world that in every single language you can imagine are doing some type of video right away. So it's like a lot of clamoring, like, move out of the way. I got to do my video first. While Ripley and I are like, what is the rush? But it is an exciting environment. Apple puts on a very sort of well curated presentation. They're really good with crowd control. They have like Disneyland, like park level crowd control skills. So they're really good with that.
So there's a 4-hour queue before the actual product.
No, it's good. It's really fast.
Only one of us was allowed inside the theater. The last 2 years, there was only one of us here, so that was myself. But Ariel and I had different passes. I was at the media broadcast terrace up on the hill. Ariel was inside the theater. And they were incredibly efficient and persistent about making sure I ended up in my specific location prior to the start of it.
So basically, the Apple Store employee character, this sort of like person in the polo shirt that's sort of helpful and isn't allowed to use the word no and just has a bunch of weird ways of saying yes. That is now a reoccurring character at all of Apple. That is their security guards. That's the in-house helpers. They've made that like some type of an archetype, right? And that's like those are like the main soldiers. If it was an army, there's soldiers wear these blue polo shirts, with a little Apple logo on it. And they're there to tell you everything, right? They tell you especially what not to do. Are you not allowed to eat right now? Catering there is very good. They had food. It was a crazy contrast from luxury events, but there's some similarities, yet inherently very, very different. And the cool part is it's new technology someone just invented. We never get that in the watch industry. It's like never happened.
So do you feel in any way treated differently? Like the whole process of aBlogtoWatch being invited to this, do you feel is it just an invitation that's going out to us the same way it's going out to everybody else?
Think of it as all the different old royal families in Europe. They all had their distinct differences, but essentially they all have crowns, they all have courts, and they all want you to come pay homage.
Right, okay. So you don't feel this...
Well, the stuff that we're interested in is so different than what the tech bloggers are interested in. They're talking about, all of the software stuff. They're like, we have this new digital thing and the new AI generative stuff, and we're like, okay, so the finishing on the titanium, we noticed is this blasted. It's just we're the only people DLC? Who are deep into the. Yeah, we're like, so how is the GLC? Is it a vapor deposition process? And how about the titanium for this? Is this also grade 5? We're asking every single hardware question that no one asks, and are entirely disinterested in like the new AI generative stuff, which is, let's be real, it's subject to an update, and it could radically change it. Whereas at least the hardware it's going to be what it is until the next generation.
We both watched a Hollywood level quality video about sleep apnea. That was fun.
35 minutes about sleep apnea. I think between that and the Apple, the AirPods hearing aid stuff, I think I may have what's needed for a pre-medical degree based on just the amount that they've put into it.
No, we're gonna fix all our problems with Apple products. Screw doctors.
I mean, is it just the case that Apple products are just being developed for older and older people? It's like the whole generation that developed this as a product.
They learned that it's better to get people to wear it through fear than functionality, right? Like if you don't wear it, you might have, a heart fibrillation, right? Or your blood pressure might go out of control. And so there's a lot of people that like the idea of being monitored. It feels nice. Something's looking out for me. That's a lovely thing. And the more they can do, and they're testing all kinds of things, they're testing the blood sugar as well, which would be interesting. But the goal is that we're wearing these devices that is actively monitoring all these statistics about our health so that the AI doctor in the cloud can check in on us. Isn't that nice?
It is basically Apple the closest thing to nationalized medicine that the United States has.
Yes, more or less.
Yeah. We're just going to get
Oh my God.
Still costs a lot of money, though.
It still costs a lot of money. So talk to us then about the actual... Well, let's deal with the question, because it's the one we'll all have. I'm already seeing it in the chat. Is the Apple Watch a watch or not? I don't even understand the question, because of course it's a watch. But
10 years later...
Someone take the other side.
More now than ever before. I mean... Look, I think Ripley, maybe he'll have a different opinion, but I hope he'll agree that the way they talk about it is very similar to the way that a watch brand is excited about a new watch. It's the same discussion materials. They're still very vain about what it looks like in the light, and they want to be pretty, and they want to be comfortable, and they want to be like sleek. And like, that's all they probably spent as much time, if not more, talking about that than the features. And there's a lot of new features, right? That's like the whole thing is the new features. So I think there's a lot of other tech companies that still consider these just to be like wearable consumer electronics, where Apple is like, if there is a watch that that has come from the traditional industry but is a smartwatch, that's our product. So you can have a disagreement out there whether it is or it isn't. Apple certainly thinks it is.
Ripley?
Yeah, I would 100% agree with Ariel. I think the earliest Apple Watches were very much them taking the blueprint of their tablets and minimizing it into a wearable device and then streamlining it on a human use. But this latest generation of Apple Watches puts a much greater emphasis on the aesthetics, the on-wrist experience, and that's mirrored not just in like the thin down case profile, the choice to go with polished titanium, but also in the range of accessories. If you look at a lot of the straps, the bracelets themselves are getting more intricate. There's a lot more like traditional watch stuff with these, whether it's these really slick, thin clasps that fold into themselves, titanium mesh bracelets, just the style of the straps, they're getting far less techy and a lot more jewelry based. The link bracelets are a lot slicker now. Arguably, it is more of a traditional watch now than it's ever been. So yeah, I think it is a watch. It's just kind of this parallel product category because it can also do your taxes and everything else. Or play Taylor Swift. I was trying to photograph it and it starts playing music and I'm asking the guy, I'm like, well, how do I make this stop? He goes, well, we first have to figure out where it's playing the music from. And I'm like, oh God, there's multiple things that can be doing this. I just happily hand it off to him and make him stop, shake it off playing.
Well, that's the weird thing now. They're trying to promote that you can use the onboard speakers to play music, which just sounds like the most annoying thing for bystanders.
Well, especially if you have to figure out what app is playing the music. It's not like there's
just like it's one thing to talk to your wrist and have it to talk back, but when like that's your speaker system and that's how you're listening to your like podcasts and stuff like that, it's like, okay, it's glad that they're doing that, but I liked it better when it was through the headphones.
David, tempted to buy a smartwatch yet?
No. The only thing that ever tempted me was that Hermes made this amazing woven style, but it's not woven, but it looks like it's woven orange rubber strap on a folding clasp. And I keep looking it up. I think it's Killian or something like that. And I just want to have an Apple Watch for that strap. That's all I care about.
Well, now fans of Hermes can be happy that Hermes has straps, but there's also like a link bracelet where the big penultimate link is a big H, like from the belt buckle. It takes H-link bracelet to a whole new meaning. It's literally big H in there. But yes, Hermes is still a part of the new ones as well. And for those who want kind of the top of the line strap options, yeah, this is the one, that big wide H-link there. They're cool.
It's
you know what I mean?
Crazy, but that the new link bracelet, the titanium ones, those are fantastic. When they first came out in steel, it was like a wow product. It was 10 years ago. Now they basically redid it in 3 different colors in titanium. It's better engineered than before in terms of it being easier. It was very well machined, but it was just a bit complicated, I think. And they've sort of refined it, and it's in titanium in 3 colors, so it's lightweight. It is really great. You know, I just think that they have a really cool product right now. And it's the type of thing, I mean, look, Apple's very image conscious. They're very, very image conscious. They would hate the idea that, yeah, you get a bunch of functionality, but like, oh, it could look a little bit better. And they keep trying. The fact that it's thinner, it makes a big deal. The screen, I mean, they were upset that you couldn't have a ticking seconds hand. It didn't have enough refresh rate for that. Like, this is all aesthetics. Okay. No, there's not that much use case arguments to develop millions of dollars of R&D just to make sure that on an always-on basis, it doesn't just show the time, but the seconds hand ticks as well.
And on one of the digital faces, it doesn't just tick. So in the active mode, like when it illuminates when you lift your wrist, you get a running seconds hand mirroring, like maybe it looks around maybe 4 hertz, emulating a mechanical movement. And then when it goes to its dimmer always on display. It ticks once per second, like a quartz movement or a deadbeat second. So they've gone really deep with some of the displays here.
They really have. It's really weird. It's like it's you could tell that everyone in the department, it's like, wait a minute, you work on the Apple Watch, you probably wear an Apple Watch, but do you also have a traditional watch on your other wrist? Because you seem to be so obsessed with them.
The guilloche dial that responds to light, it uses the accelerometer to change the reflection facets so it looks like a guilloche dial and moves in the light like one. Like, they've gone really, really intricate in terms of just the aesthetic aspects. This offers zero functionality whatsoever beyond, 3 hands displaying the time, but the whole purpose of this is to have something pretty on your wrist that emulates the appearance of a traditional watch.
The polished titanium. I mean, I'm not saying it's brand new, but it's less common to see really nicely polished titanium. So they've basically eliminated steel as the case material, from what I can understand, and they just have pretty interestingly coated anodized aluminum, and then this coated titanium. So it basically looks like the steel ones. It's got that same nice polish, but it's lighter. I mean, you don't have to love the look, because it's a shape that not everyone loves, but it's cool looking. I mean, there's no other smartwatch on the market that comes even close to this level of refinement. I mean, maybe there's the Tag Heuer connected, but that's a different category product, really.
I think someone else, maybe Montblanc, maybe somebody else, somebody did something like this when you were rotating your hand and it would imitate the
that's not new. It's not new.
The shine effect. And for some reason, it's making me sad. I don't know why, but that's my inherent first reaction. Like, you're moving this and you see like a little display that's acting like as though it was something. I can't positively connect to it. I tried years ago. I tried now, and I can't.
You don't need to use that dial. David's right. There's a lot of people that are like, if it's not a real shine, what the hell are you doing? Like, I totally get that.
I mean, somebody is way deep into watches in this design team for the whole deadbeat second transition. Do we know anything about any of the designers that are clearly also got a huge watch collection somewhere?
I mean, the answer is yes. They're basically all watch people.
They're all watch people, and those who are, they have, at the end of the day, they are making a watch. And although the Apple Watch is a much newer entry to the market, they do have to look at the quote-unquote iconic models, these models that have been successful for decades and continue to remain celebrated as quote-unquote timeless, and see what about those works, what about certain things works in terms of an ergonomic or aesthetic perspective. And so I think even the ones who weren't watch people prior to embarking on this project have to really kind of dissect the traditional watch industry and say, well, what about this can we implement into our product, even though it's actually operating in a totally parallel space? So, I am sure some of them are deep, deep watch enthusiasts who read our blog, and I'm sure others are now deep watch enthusiasts, but coming from it from an entirely different perspective. But I can't imagine anyone on that design team isn't pretty deep in the wool to the point where they're, programming movements of second hands, to do different things with different faces.
So give me one thing that the traditional watch industry can learn from Apple, and give me one thing that Apple can learn from the traditional watch industry.
I'll let you go first, Ripley.
Okay, well, what can the traditional watch industry learn from Apple? I think when Apple designs hardware, they kind of come about it from a different point of view, because they let Apple cut its teeth being a hardware manufacturer. Obviously, the software is inextricably connected to what they do. But when they approach an issue, whether it's a rubber strap, the clasp on a bracelet, how the links attach to themselves, they come from it from an engineering perspective rather than how is this bracelet constructed, or how are these components constructed. And so I think what you see in Apple's hardware, something simple like a clasp, which could be symmetrical for an Apple Watch and a regular watch, it's just executed differently. And there's some cool little things that they do that is really innovative that you don't get from the big brands. Now, what could Apple learn from watch, brands as a whole and working the other way? I mean, they still are operating within the tech space, and because of that, the design language is a bit confined by it's a black box. At the end of the day, it still looks like an iPhone. But I think each generation gets better and better, looking more refined, and you can see a lot of the things that they are implementing do come from the world of watches. But I think from an aesthetic point of view, in turning the Apple Watch, really kind of completing its transformation from just being a technology item into a piece of tech-centric jewelry, apparel, it still has a little way to go, in the same way that, no one looks at a Patek and doesn't think it's a lovely object, even if they don't like its style.
Ariel?
So I think that something that the watch industry can learn from Apple is the true meaning of innovation. And if you aren't matching innovation anywhere close to that, just stop using the word innovation. I mean, I understand that watch brands are not tech companies any longer, even though they essentially used to be. And that you really can't compete with Apple when it comes to just the number of new things, new inventions, or technologies for themselves on an annual basis. But you could try a little bit. We love concept watches. We love things that are maybe not for sale, but just same thing like cars, like try new technology. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but there's not a lot of it. And again, if you don't have that, then lean into something else, but don't talk about innovation when you haven't done it in decades. And I think that something that Apple can learn from the watch industry is, maybe about giving people examples of what it looks like to wear their watches in certain spaces. They do so, don't get me wrong. With the Ultra, they have tons of videos and pictures of rugged, people doing rugged things outside. But still, I think with a lot of the main models, they allow people just to decide for themselves, like, oh, well, that's the colors for me. And I think that there's so many colors at this point, so many sizes at this point, that Apple kind of leaves it up for people to choose what they want. And that's actually turned out quite interesting, is because they don't necessarily market, you should wear this, you should wear that. When you go out in the world, you can definitely see that there's both men and women wearing the smaller size, for example, right? There's no consistency on who wears what color. So in a sense, it's good, but I also think there's a lot of consumers that would go out and buy extra straps, right? You see a lot of people, they just have that one strap that came with the Apple Watch. But Apple has this whole insane universe of straps. How do they get people to buy more of them? I think they have to tell the story more like, not only is the Apple Watch fun, but getting a new strap will make it feel better. So again, they're not hurting for money, but if there's a small area they could learn, it's give each of your little areas a little bit more love.
And David, final question for you. Do you think it would make any sense either for Apple or the traditional watch selling community for Apple Watches to be available in, let's say, Watches of Switzerland or Bucherer? Would it make any sense to say, actually, here's these nice shiny, they're about $1,000, so it's the same as an entry level, X, Y, and Z. Would it make any sense to try and, for the brands to try and sell them beside each other?
That would be a very interesting thing. I'm sure Apple could get away with it and make themselves look good doing it, but I can imagine the uproar and they all the brands or most of the brands present in those brick and mortar stores would just revolt against that. I was just telling this story to somebody the other day that when the Apple Watch, the original one, launched, and we were at Basel or someplace, I remember some brands telling us face to face that we absolutely have to abandon our coverage and we must not cover smartwatches ever again. And it was one of the big watch group brands, for example, that I specifically remember. Ariel, do you remember this? Like they were like, "Oh, it's the devil," and they basically ordered us to cease and desist any sort of smartwatch coverage. And yet here we are 10 years later, and the watch industry has other troubles than the smartwatch.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, let's cover something that's at completely the opposite end from this. And this is the new release, Biver Automatique Watches. Now, what was the presence of Biver during Geneva Watch Days a year ago?
We didn't get a chance to see him. I heard about this watch beforehand. They were there. They just, a lot of brands we just didn't get around to seeing.
Now, I thought when we spoke to Jean-Claude before the launch of the original that the plan was that the next one up would be a chronograph, and then a perpetual calendar, and then they wanted to cover all the bases. So does going to a three-hander say something about what's going on in the world of watches, in the world of high horology, and in the world of Biver as a brand? What do we actually think of this watch?
I think it's nice. It's a platform to build on. It's very similar to the minute repeater Tourbillon in that you can do a lot with a dial. You could theoretically put artwork there. You could have all these different materials it could look good in. So, like I said, it's similar to like the Grand Seiko watch. It's like same basic concept. Put a bunch of colors on it. Make different watches out of it. They definitely wanted to focus on something more affordable. That was a big deal for them. The first watches that came out were impressive, but like I think a lot of them were cost over $1 million because there were 6 special ones. That's a lot, and I guess the market wasn't buying a lot of those, so they wanted to go to affordable next. Maybe they could have taken a few more years for this. I think it's sort of like similar like France FP Journe, where the chronometer blue was so popular because it was the cheapest, but wasn't the first. It wasn't like they came out with that first. It's like a bunch of other watches, and all of a sudden there was a cheaper one, and that did well. So there's no argument to be made that this should have come a little bit later. But it's perfectly lovely. Like it's a nice watch, and assuming they use it as a platform to do art on top of interesting dials and stuff like that, it's competent. I mean, I'm not in the market for timepieces like this, so I'm not really. I'm not going to be like, I know I'm going to buy this thing instead.
I mean, it's a test as to whether putting the name of a person who's effectively a great watch salesman as opposed to a great watchmaker has as much kudos to it. Do you think it's working, brand Biver as a thing, as opposed to, as you say, FP Journe, whereby you know that an actual watchmaker's been involved, where Jean-Claude would I saw a video the other day of him saying he couldn't hang a picture on a wall, I think it was. So, he is a salesman and a CEO fundamentally. It'd be like, is it like wearing a Bill Gates branded watch as opposed to something made by a watchmaker?
I don't think it matters. I think you need to have a creative at the helm, and sometimes that creative is a watchmaker, sometimes it's a business person, sometimes it's an artist, as long as you have someone with a vision. So I don't know who exactly is calling the shots there, but presuming that Jean-Claude himself is deciding what product to do next, that's all they need.
Ripley, David, would you ever consider dropping $80,000 on one of these?
Personally, no. I don't have $80,000 to spend on any watch, let alone this wouldn't be the one I'd be putting that money towards. But like Ariel said, it does make sense for this brand to have this. It might be a bit early relative to their other offerings. But at the same time, there was no way that Biver was not going to have a time-only movement in the lineup at some point. And the alternative to this collection would be to debut that movement in a very high-end art watch that showcased the movement but was really more about the dial. And then introducing these thereafter as a cheaper standard production version. This is just the alternate approach where you unveil it in the core collection models, and I'm sure we're going to see this same movement, which is quite pretty on the reverse side. I'm sure we're going to see the same movement used as the foundation for other pieces in the future. And whether or not it's working for the brand, it's still a bit early to tell. I mean, I think it's important to remember that FP Journe now is regarded very highly, but even not that many years ago, the retail environment for FP Journe's watches wasn't nearly as fierce and competitive as it is today. And part of what really helped put that brand mainstream was pieces like the Chronomètre Blue and the Chronomètre Souverain, where it is firmly on the more affordable side of the spectrum, but not everyone wants a complicated watch. Some people just want a very highly executed, simple watch. And so this is a more approachable offering, both from a price point perspective and also just a conceptual standpoint.
Well, Joseph in the live chat is commenting on the JCB 003 movement, loving the look of it and its gorgeous architecture. I struggle with the fact that it's called a JCB movement, because to me a JCB is what I've got sitting outside on a building site. So I don't know if George Bamford has any comment on the use of JCB movements and watches, but maybe that's a different question for George. Any final thoughts on this? I'm sure they are. I'm sure. Maybe there's a trait. I can imagine Jean-Claude driving around in a yellow Sightmaster while George has been gifted one of these as Jean-Claude goes and makes his cheese. David, final thoughts on this?
I'm not quite a fan of Biver's modular style. I feel like most all of the watches that are connected to him have this modular vibe. And sure, I understand that sometimes you have to change the dial color or something like that. But a lot of the time, what I feel like is what they're trying to do is find a list of ingredients that you can swap out, modify, whatever, and they don't feel like an inseparable sort of component to the design. I feel like, I could just take the dial from this and put it into that. And sure, most all watches work that way. But for some reason, ever since back the Heuer 01 or maybe long before that, but definitely the Tag Heuer, Carrera Heuer 01 times. It might not have been called the Carrera, but whatever. I just get this vibe. And I look at this and I get the same vibe. It's nicely designed. It doesn't really make me tingle in any way. The movement is beautiful, but 80K. And maybe they should start, promoting their watches with real photography, because I was trying to judge the quality of the movement, for example, and also the dials. And these are just renders. And when they are renders, it's very difficult to tell. And for 80K, you want to take a closer look, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's been a few of that in the chat this week, and a number of watches released where all we've had is renders. However, we're going to talk about this before we play Hit and Miss, maybe.
For nearly 85 years, Marathon Watch has been a family-owned company specializing in an extensive array of precision instruments designed to measure time, temperature, and distance. Today, all Marathon watches are built with industry-leading standards at the company's own factory located in La Chaux-de-Fonds, Switzerland. Many people know Marathon as a long-standing supplier of timepieces to the Allied Armed Forces. Today, Marathon is the Allied Forces' only remaining official supplier of watches. Marathon is also proud to supply high-quality tools to law enforcement and rescue professionals whose jobs absolutely require reliability and value. Since 1941, Marathon has been producing timepieces to exacting standards for the military, and until recently, that was the only way to get a Marathon military spec timepiece. Today, Marathon welcomes watch lovers everywhere to get to know one of the best kept secrets in performance horology. Marathon watches were worn by active duty professionals in conflicts such as World War II, Operation Desert Storm, and Operation Enduring Freedom. Wearers appreciate the ultra-durable, ultra-functional, and ultra-precise nature of Marathon's mostly tritium gas tube illumination-equipped products. Most recently, Marathon proudly announced the launch of the new Jeep by Marathon collection, which includes 4 featured timepieces that honor the brand's rich history and honorable service supplying the Allied forces back to 1941. Discover the full collection of exciting enthusiast-grade Jeep watches, as well as the full collection of Marathon products at marathonwatch.com.
It's time for an old favourite. Guess the price of the Grand Seiko in this case. Ripley, this was your review, so you're probably excluded from this game. Feel free to play along in the chat. Grand Seiko Evolution 9 Collection Spring Drive, 5 days, SLGA 025 watch. Anything else to say about this?
So it's again inspired by water in Japan, but not the water of the Genbi. You'd be forgiven for confusing them. It's Spring Drive. It's the Evolution 9 series from Grand Seiko, which is not their heritage collection. Evolution 9, it represents kind of the most advanced model, so it represents an evolution of the brand's design language, but it also means that these watches are fitted with the most up-to-date, most current generations of their respective calibers. In this case, you get the latest spring drive movement. It's titanium, the brand's high-intensity titanium alloy. And you get the power reserve indicator on the back rather than its fan-shaped thing on the lower right-hand side of the dial like normal.
Yes, good stuff. Right, well, let's guess this price. Ripley, I assume you know the price and can recall it.
I do.
What has been suggested. So if you contribute to the show in any way, then by sending us an email or a voice note on the WhatsApp number. Gentlemen, can you remember what the WhatsApp number is yet? Is it seared into your brains?
Please sing us the song, Rick.
No, sing us a song. Please sing us a song. You know what? I've actually mislaid the phone that the WhatsApp number is
guitar, maybe.
Is written on the back of. Bagpipe music. Oh, we'll see. Here's the phone here, so it's sitting behind me. So number +44 7386 690 897. If you want to send us a note there or send an email to podcast@ablogtowatch.com. If we use it, then you'll get a special invite to our own wee secret WhatsApp group where you can contribute and perhaps come on the show. So do get involved. And one of the contributors on that WhatsApp group, Simon, who you'll know, suggests that the correct price for this watch is the square root of all other previous Seiko releases multiplied by the average number of leaves of blossom on the trees by Mount Fuji, which probably sounds about right. But what do you guys actually think? So, David, give us a price.
I go with 9,000.
9,000. Ariel, higher or lower?
I'm not actually sure, but I'm going to say 100,000 yen.
Okay, just making that difficult. Cheers, cool. Ariel. Thanks, Ariel. And can somebody do that sum in the head?
That's $700 US. So you're only 10 times off, but that's okay.
Okay, so the actual price of this Ripley is
$10,500 USD.
$10,000 for a 3-hand spring drive.
That's 1.5 million yen.
Rick, it technically...
I totally screwed up.
It technically has...
it's always more yen than you expect.
It's a 4-hander. It's got a little thermally blued hand on the reverse side of the movement, so it is 4 hands.
Oh, it's 4. Counting the hand on the back.
Yes.
A 4-hand, yeah. It's
cool watch, bad bracelet.
Yeah, where's the Evolution 9 bracelet? Where's the Evolution there? That's the
they have it. It's exceptionally wide for the case. It's 22 mil lugs. So I think this is the same bracelet more or less as what you'd find on like the white birch, which it wears quite nice on the wrist, but as soon as you take the bracelet off and stick a strap on the watch, the proportions kind of suffer. 22 lugs is quite wide for this case, in my opinion.
Okay, Crazy Joe has a great comment. Grand Seiko needs to be locked up alongside Audemars Piguet for the reckless use of renders. There we go. Yeah, that sounds about right. Anyway, let's stop sharing that and get ourselves stuck into Hit Miss Maybe. Let's see who's ready to come in. Let's let Guy in first of all. Good morning, Guy. You're live. How are you this morning?
Good morning.
Excellent. Let's let Kevin.
I'm good. How are you all?
Not bad.
Good Ripley, morning. No wall.
No wall.
On the
Ripley's
road.
Traveling. Uncle Traveling Ripley.
Good
Kevin,
morning.
good morning. How are you? Is
Good
Kevin going to do his
well,
usual?
thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. We can hear you. We're not going to need to replace you with
Excellent.
crickets. Still alive. The hitman has not got to Kevin yet.
I am still here.
And new to the
Absolutely.
show, let's welcome Matt in. Matt is channeling Ripley's clothing by the looks of it. So is shopping in the same wardrobe. Good morning, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking, Rick.
Excellent. Right. Well, let's start the show the way we normally do. And some people are in different locations. And there's some new people. So let's find out what they're wearing and where they are. Ripley, unless that's a curtain over your wall, then you're somewhere else. Where are you and what are you wearing?
I'm in Cupertino, about several hundred yards from the Steve Jobs Theater, and I'm wearing my palm dial.
palm dial. Did it get any comments in a room full of Apple Watches? I mean, was the watch spotting any good? Were there double
There's
wristing
a few
people?
non-Apple watches there. Yeah.
Anyone wearing a Garmin? You know, it's like going to the
Ooh.
Patek booth
There was
wearing
there was a couple of people there wearing non-Apple smartwatches. I seen a couple Garmin. I saw one of the Samsung ones, the Ultra rip-off one, which is not great looking.
Right, okay. Nobody wearing a Tag Connected or something from Mont Blanc.
This is not exactly
watch.
an open event. Apple selects wrist by wrist who gets to enter.
Security. Good stuff. David, where are you? What are you wearing?
I'm in Budapest, and I just wanted to show you guys. I just got this in the mail, and it's quite a hilarious way of. As you open this, it goes like ta-da, and then what you have is an all gold IWC Perpetual rolling all over the floor if you're not careful. It's just kind of insane. It travels like Hannibal Lecter, like nothing can happen to it on the way. But the moment you open it, it's in great peril.
Oh, very nice. Lovely.
Here it is. That's kind of cool.
Oh, it looks nice though. That looks nice.
Good.
I wanted to review one of these for quite some time, so
that's good.
Well, you did a nice review on the Mark 20, so they're probably like, "Here you go. We'll send this one to you."
Thank you. I was not very kind to it, but they did send me another one. So that's good.
Good stuff. Ariel, where are you? What are you wearing?
I woke up in Cupertino, drove back, and I've still got the Ultra 2 on, which has such a cool new set of bracelets, including the titanium one. I mean, I know that Omega has that one, maybe some other company does, but there's not a lot of titanium mesh metal bracelets on the market, and I mean, Apple just basically blows the other ones out of the water. They did such a good job.
Mm-hmm. Matt, where are you, and what are you wearing?
I'm in San Diego, California. I'm wearing the Seiko SBCJ017. It's a probably 20-year-old quartz model, full titanium, perpetual calendar, all the stuff you'd want.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Guy, where are you? What are you wearing?
I am on the rainy south coast of the UK. I've got my D-Trash Gotham's Vigilante on, but I've also got this, which I think is quite cool, which is fully made of ocean plastic, the case as well. And they're like really cheap.
And what is it?
I think it's quite cool. It's called an I Am the Watch. Well, I just quite like what it was made. It's not, the looks not, the logo and the name's horrible, but the watch itself is really comfy.
Good stuff. Kevin, did you have to drink all the free drinks at the weekend, or did the Scots come and take them all from you? How was the show?
The show went very, very well attended. Unfortunately, we didn't drink the bar dry. There was a couple £100 left at the end of the day. So,
Party time for the show then? Care packages all round.
Workers. Absolutely. But no, it went very, very well. Thank you. Looking forward to what we're going to do next year. We've got some things planned. But we'll see.
Good.
Excellent. Fantastic to the brand.
And what are you wearing on the wrist today?
I have got a Rado OpenWorks. Captain Cook.
Captain Cook. Very nice indeed.
Yeah.
I am in Scotland. I am not wearing a Panerai. I have, in fact, been sent this out. Okay, don't boo or hiss at the same time, because I actually really like this. I requested, maybe it's because I'm in Scotland. It's been wet, and so there's been no summer. So the only vaguely summery thing has been a bright red strap.
Oh, no.
Guys.
I'm sorry. Listen,
you saw it on the runway models and got jealous.
That's probably true. Genuinely, for £1,000 or $1,000, I'm actually really quite impressed.
It's more than $1,000, Rick. I think it's like $1,600.
You can get a lot of polos for that money.
I can in this country, but I'm actually very impressed. So there you go. You should don't judge the book by its cover.
I assumed they were like some kind of charity shop thing. I would have loved that in about the 90s.
That's what I thought. I was like, there's no way I'm going to like this, because it's just, maybe I'm just getting to that age whereby I'm trying to relive my youth. But I would genuinely recommend you don't judge the book by its cover.
Rick,
go
does
and check it
the
out.
bezel
There we go.
rotate on this one? I reviewed the previous
It does.
generation.
It does.
It does?
It does. Yeah, it's a
Innovation!
unidirectional bezel.
Oh, innovation. Oh, there we go. There we
Ripley and
go.
I have
Apple.
seen some poor excuses for watches with Ralph Lauren on the dial. Okay, let's just put it that way.
Unidirectional bezel. Yeah, I liked it. And actually, bizarre. Well, interestingly, a number of people who aren't watch geeks, and that's obviously the market they're playing in as a kind of brand, are like, oh, I actually really liked it as well. It was you hand them a Rolex, like, oh, Rolex is like Rolex because it has all this kind of association with it, but you hand them this and they're like, oh no, I quite like that. It's quite comfy and light and all the rest of it. So there you go. So anyway.
Because Polo Ralph Lauren has nothing associated with the brand.
Nothing associated with it at all. No, it's a great piece. Anyway, I like it. So Yabu sucks to the lot of you.
Wear it in good health, Rick.
Let's review some watches.
I really wanted you to say now, let's judge books by their covers. Having said you shouldn't do it.
Let's judge books by their covers. Yeah, this is our whole shtick. Okay, first up, let's judge this. Ripley Tissot PRX Powermatic 80 forged carbon watch. Tell us a little bit about it, and then we shall judge the book by its cover.
So, I don't think the PRX itself needs much of an introduction. They released a whole cornucopia of new dial colors, including some really interesting gradient ones. Those are all for the steel models. Quietly among those is this. It's based on the 40 millimeter platform, although it's actually half a meter larger than the steel ones because of its case structure. Just like most carbon watches, it's a stainless steel internal section surrounded by the carbon that forms the case. So in this, it's the stainless steel internal section, stainless steel case back, sapphire crystals, and then there's this uni-piece carbon body that forms the bezel, middle case, and lugs. It's not, and so you also get a carbon fiber dial. So for those who like the look of forged carbon, it's all over. It's on a strap rather than the bracelet. Strap appears to be the exact same as what you get on the standard strap equipped PRXs. But the big other notable upgrade other than the forged carbon is the movement. It's still a Powermatic 80, so it's the 2824, but the Swatch Corp exclusive one. So 3 hertz rate instead of 4 hertz, but you get the longer 80-hour power reserve. But the upgrade on this one is a silicone hairspring. So this isn't a new movement per se. It's still the Powermatic 80. And Tissot uses this movement in other models, but now it is available in the PRX in this incarnation. And it all comes in at $995, so still under $1,000.
Good stuff, right? Very quickly, a hit, a miss, or a maybe. 1, 2, 3, go. Hits, maybe, hit, and I can't tell what Kevin is voting because he's all dodgy internet. Hit! Okay, so more or less hits all round except for David, but Ripley, yep, you've given it a hit. You reviewed the watch.
I mean, execution's going to be everything. I don't know if I'm going to like it better than the steel models. Forged carbon itself doesn't really feel high-end. So it needs to be done really, really nicely to give you that luxury type of appearance. So execution is going to be everything on this one. It might just fall short a little bit in the hands. But you get a Swiss automatic watch with a forged carbon case for under $1,000 from a premier luxury-ish manufacturer. So yeah, what's not to like? It's a hit until I see otherwise based in quality.
David, give it a maybe.
Yeah, I'm inviting Swatch Group lawyers to disconnect now. I'm not entirely certain that this is Swiss made. As far as the case and the dial and basically everything outside of the movement is concerned, it just feels like and looks like all of these all carbon everything watches that we've been seeing out of Asia for many, many years. I reviewed one like 10 years ago or something like that. I can't really remember what the name of it was. And that was among the first forged carbon cased, relatively more affordable watches. And this one and the dial and the printing on the dial, especially with this like aluminum foil type of text and everything else, it just screams fashion watch to me. Even though I do like carbon, of course, it just doesn't feel like a Swiss watch to me.
Okay, Ariel, does it feel Swiss enough?
David could be right. For me, that's less important. Tissot's currently having a real love affair with the PRX. It's doing well for them sales-wise. We see them all over the place. So when this happens, what do? They try to make as many flavors as possible. I happen to like the organic texture of forged carbon. I would really love for this watch to be available on a bracelet. I think that would look really, really cool. That would make it such a stunning timepiece. It's a reliable movement, and so it sort of has that cool hipness of a lot of the indie watches we like, but we can actually not worry about it breaking and stuff like that. If it does, we know where to send it. And so I like that combination of like trusted brand, but with sort of a hip look. So I'd probably get some wrist time out of it for sure.
Joseph in the chat gives it a hit, but Matt in front of his door. I think Matt's the kind of man that would have liked my Pomo watch. I think that
Ralph Lauren makes great watches. It's kind of a unsung hero. Like there's the one with the big bear. I'm into that one.
Good
How about a big horse? We've they make those as well.
Hey, right. So Matt, you voted a hit.
Yeah, I mean this is a cool watch. It's blacked out without being illegible. I bet every PRX is probably not really Swiss. Let's be honest with ourselves. And I think that it's just a cool looking watch. Brodinky made a good point on their podcast today. Kind of overshadowed all the other colorful models that came out at the same time. I just think it's the star of the bunch. So I think it's really awesome. I think it's going to sell like hotcakes.
Creeping up to the $1,000 mark, Guy. Are we just seeing this ramping up? Is this a year from now? Is this going to be PRX? Is going to be all 1,500 quid?
It's still not bad value, but 900 quid is pretty good value. I mean, I gave it a hit because I give pretty much every black case watch a hit unless it does something really wrong. So I really like it. I think it's a good price. And I think on David's point, there are a lot more, far more expensive watches out there that say Swiss made on them that are not made primarily in Switzerland. So I think that's kind of a fault of the industry that can't. It's a bit harsh to level it just to this watch at this price. You can probably spend about $6,000 for a Chinese watch.
Yeah, I'd say it's the industry's fault. If you have rules such as X% by weight, bro, the whole thing's made out of carbon. Just make the steel bits in Switzerland and you hit the weight criteria. Like, I think it's the industry's fault. It's like in sports. The sports have rules, but it's for the athletes to work within those rules and sort of exploit those loopholes to maximize their performance of the game. And the brands do the same thing. What's the criteria for Swiss made? Okay, let's do that and not a cent more. So you can't really fault the brands for doing what they're legally allowed to do. But I think at the end of it, if the product delivers in terms of quality, it is what it is.
And I don't think we make watches in Asia. Like, I'm open about that, and we charge £308 for a watch, not thousands for a watch. And it's not a quality issue. Like, you can make very good quality watches in Asia. Anyone who questions Swiss made should go shopping in a Swiss supermarket, because that's where the money goes. It's like the cost of living in Switzerland is crazy.
Well, if you want to know where the cost of Swiss made goes, just shoot them an email in August and see where they're at. Like it's to go fund a 6-week holiday in the middle of the summer.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the case makers are stamping these out, like 15,000 kilometers away while they are on holiday. That's great. I want to subsidize that. No, I don't think we owe Tissot any explanations or excuses. I think my issue is not with cases and dials being made in China and elsewhere, but rather than this is a Tissot and people go to it because it's a Swiss-made watch, they think, and it still says Swiss-made on it. And I understand this is a greater discussion on the point of Swiss-made and its authenticity or lack thereof, but at the same time, it bothers me that it's a Tissot and they act like as though, we just made this out of forged carbon and it's Swiss. Have you mentioned it's Swiss? And it had these big Swiss-made logos on the in the windows in the stores and everywhere. It's just not. It's a dishonest thing to me, and I don't like Tissot being dragged into that. Even though I understand they have to make money for their 6-week holidays.
Kevin, when was the last time you had a 6-week holiday? Wait a minute, you're retired. Every day is a holiday.
Keep that quiet. Yeah, fine. So yeah, technically every day's a holiday, but with this particular watch, I voted a hit. For me, it's got great presence. It's great value for money. It's forged carbon. I mean, you can spend 2, 3, 5 times as much to get a similar look in forged carbon. It's a hit all day long, and they're going to make, sorry, I shouldn't have said that, loads of money.
Loads of money. Loads of money.
Out of it, definitely.
Great stuff. Right,
regardless if it's Swiss or not.
Let's test. It's not quite a test of Guy's theory about who'll vote a hit for anything that is a kind of black watch. This, I think, counts as a black watch, though the case isn't black, but let's see if we can persuade him to go a hit. This is the Audemars Piguet Code 1159 Selfwinding Flying Tourbillon Chronograph Shades of Grey, so maybe doesn't quite count as a black watch. It is everything you expect from a Code 1159 and Audemars Piguet. Tourbillons, flying things. It's a bit dull looking. It's a bit crazy looking. It's also see-through. So what do we think about this on the count of 3? Is it a hit? Is it a miss? Or is it a maybe? 1, 2, 3, go. Hit, maybes, misses, maybe. Oh, good selection. Ripley, start us off. Why is this a hit?
Well, I've made it clear that AP has made so many ugly Code 1159s that I'm going to give a hit to anyone that isn't ugly. Okay. I keep saying this. The Code 1159 really works best when it's very complicated. I think it does not work well as a 3-handed time date watch. But this, you give it all the bells and whistles. It's not a royal oak, and I think that's important for AP to continue to evolve this design language in a way that doesn't suck. And I think this does that. It's cool. It's interesting. There's a lot to look at, and anyone who's ever handled a Code 1159, even the ugly time and date ones, it is a really visually and physically stimulating piece. There's a lot to look at there. So I'm sure this is going to look way better in person than in the renders. So yeah, this isn't necessarily where I'd put my money, but it's not a bad looking Code 1159 when you look at the bunch of them, and it's not a royal oak. So that automatically puts it into the hit category for me.
Just realised I gave it a hit, and it's both a rendered watch and a watch that's only 30 meters, so I'm changing my mind. It's a miss. David, what did you reckon?
I'm still checking something. Let me get that to you.
Ariel, we're going back to David. Ariel, how'd you vote?
I voted maybe. There's a lot of cool things here. I mean, obviously, it's probably going to be really nice movement. The Code 1159 case is quite intricate. I think the problem is at this price point, which I haven't quite figured out yet, but I imagine it's very, very high. There's other options out there. The sort of Tourbillon chronograph automatic movement is not per se new. It's sort of a new version of it. And the Code 1159, unlike a lot of watches at this price point, isn't very pretty. It's a cool watch. It's hip, it's neat, but it's not a pretty watch, at least not yet. So I think this is interesting, but it sort of goes in that category of sort of those like spacey futuristic watches that are like mostly meant to like, impress the guys at the parlor than really be worn on a daily basis. There's just not a lot of room in the market for this right now.
David, have you cogitated, or do you need some more time?
Yeah, just a little bit more. Just give me 2 seconds.
More time. Matt, how'd you vote?
I voted a miss. I think, let's start with the good. It's got gold on a gray background. It's kind of nice to see like quote unquote skeletonized and not be all the same color, but that's about it. I hate to be yet another person ragging on like Code 1159. It's kind of a trope at this point, but for years, you can hear it with Ripley. Oh, it looks okay. That's a hit. It's like they've somehow convinced us with a lot of mediocrity to accept something that looks kind of cool. It's barely skeletonized as far as I can tell. I don't see much of that movement from the front.
True.
And this whole, there's design language of a chapter ring is embarrassing. Like, I don't know how they came to the conclusion that having a numbered chapter ring can be considered design language. It's very plain to me. And at $270,000, it really makes no sense. I don't know who's going to buy these. I don't even think if you want a double balance, that you'd buy this. It's just not worth it to me. I just don't get it.
Guy, it's a bit black,
give it a hit.
It's a bit grey. Give it a hit.
I like it. I really. I mean, it's a stupid price, but I agree with everything Ripley said. It's the first.
Dangerous place to be.
1159s were always like touted as someone wants an AP and they're not important enough to get up the list for a Royal Oak, so you can have an 1159 and you're allowed to have an AP. This is the first one I've seen that I was like, oh, actually, I think that looks nice. Like, it looks like it's been thought through and nicely designed and nice use of colours, mixing the gold and the black together. I just think it is quite nice.
Good,
I mean,
good.
30 meters water resistant is ridiculous, but also you're not scuba diving in a £200 watch.
Can we also just quickly point out that Patek Philippe's Aquanaut is now 30 meters down from 150 meters, but it's a different 30 meters, so...
Different 30 meters?
Yeah,
Yes, it is. It is
The thing with the Aquanaut is, you're not going to go diving that much in a £200 watch, but an Aquanaut is called Aquanaut. It's like got aqua in the name. That's stupid.
Aquanaut.
It also has not in the name. So call that broken English, but no water.
No water.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sure that's not what it means.
The comment of the week, I think, was on this particular watch by Jens. Creepy red dot right in the upper center, staring at you like, "Good morning, Dave. How are you feeling today?" And
are they talking about the ruby? They're freaked out by the ruby?
Yeah.
That is a bit like
trust me.
it's kind of Terminator.
I will share. You think it's the render is giving it all kind of
that's
scary
not going to be
vibes?
that bright and amazing. What is it going to glow in real life? We've all seen these exposed rubies. You can barely tell they're red half the time.
There's like a dozen other exposed rubies too peeking at you.
I think
No,
I
you
am
can't
adding
see any of those. Just the center one that looks like a target to shoot an arrow at the video game.
I am adding to our watch design a ruby that, via the little grinding handle that we're pinching off the oarwork, is actually going to glow at you. So we're going to use the oarwork handle to power a glowing ruby right in the middle of our watch design. So
I like how Rick's not designing more watches, just more features in the same watch.
More features. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I am the Apple of traditional watchmaking. I'm just adding more features, even ones that people don't want.
I can't wait to wear
this. And that people will never use.
The apnea tourbillon.
Yes, the sleep apnea. Right, on that note, let's do a hit miss maybe on the watch that we spoke about at the beginning of the show. Oh no, have I missed out Kevin? Did I get Kevin?
And me. I found what I wanted.
Okay. I'm stopping sharing this because David has decided.
David
finally to say something.
I did give him 3 or 4 goes, to be fair, right? David, come on then.
No, I was just looking at this and I was wondering. I was getting higher O2T vibes when Tag Heuer made the CH80 and they modified that chronograph into a tourbillon. And this looks very much similar to that in the sense that you have the tourbillon where the running seconds used to be. So it's a 272,000 Swiss franc watch, but I'm getting the same vibes. Like, we had a base chronograph, or not a base, but, a run-of-the-mill chronograph, and we modified that into a tourbillon. I'm not getting bespoke movement vibes for $250,000. I think that's kind of odd. I'm not a fan of watches that look like regular watches but cost 10 times more. I got it with the Tag Heuer what they were doing because the regular watch was like 6,000-7,000 at the time, or maybe 8, and the tourbillon was 15. But here it's almost 10 times the price, maybe 8. And as others have pointed out, it doesn't look particularly beautifully finished or elaborately done. So I think it's a bit of a money grab, really, especially on this strap.
So is this the tourbillon you're talking about from Tag?
Yeah. No, I'm talking about this AP that has the same sort of approach, probably, in the sense that everything is in the same place on the dial, but you just replace the running seconds with the tourbillon. So, of course, there's a lot more effort that has gone into the open work, like dial or whatever, but it's just not the vibe I'm after for $250,000.
Not the vibe you're after. What kind of vibe are you after for $250,000 while we move on to...
A lot of diamonds and gold.
I like how we're calling it.
You could definitely rock that, David.
We're calling it $250,000, but it's like 270 something thousand euro. Like, this is well over $300,000 US.
Great
with tax. With tax.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there we go. Right. Well, we spoke about it at the beginning of the show about, is it a watch?
Oh, you forgot about me again.
I didn't forget about it. I thought you said you had gone. Right, okay. We'll start this again. Right, Kevin, I've just assassinated you already in my head.
You have indeed. Yeah.
You've passed on. Go for it, Kevin.
I did vote maybe.
That's good, Kevin. Right, let's move on to the Apple. Sorry, Kevin.
Well, but just looking at it, it's a lot of money. I'm going to keep it short. The top half where the ruby is. Do you remember the Muppets? And yeah, sure, it's the Muppets, where you've got the mad chef and his sidekick.
Yep. Swedish
chef.
The
Swedish chef. That top half reminds me of the Swedish chef. It's always that scary look, unfortunately. And now that I see it, I cannot see it. I just cannot see it now.
Chef, right? I need to get a picture of the Swedish chef. Hold on, we're working the inter.
I want to know where else Kevin sees Muppets.
Muppets.
Well, you guys, of course, but that goes without saying.
Muppets all the way down. Right, I can display a large selection of Swedish chefs. There we go.
If AP was going for,
no, it's the sidekick.
The sidekick.
The mad one who's always running around scared.
The chicken? No.
There was a chicken.
No. Is it a chicken? Was it a chicken?
There was a chicken in a lot of them.
There's a chicken. Anyway, right.
Anyway.
Good
put
stuff.
it in post notes or something. But yeah,
Cool.
it's a nice piece.
The Muppet chicken
Too
tourbillon.
expensive for what it is. You can buy a lot more better watches than that for the price. Move on.
Right. Now it's time to hit miss maybe the Apple Watch. Whew, got there in the end. Right, you've probably read all about it already. You've probably been popping up on Twitter, all your tweets or X's or whatever. We'll just review them as a job lot. The new Apple Watch 10 and the updated Apple Ultra 2. So on the count of 3, is it a hit? Is it a miss? Or is it a maybe? 1, 2, 3, go. Hit. Maybe, miss, maybe. Yeah, it's a hit. It's going to be a great watch. It's going to give you more value for money than anything you buy from Switzerland in terms of fundamental usefulness.
It will do everything that Audemars Piguet can do. I can promise you that.
For 1/250th of the price. Ripley?
Well, and unlike the AP that only looks like it's watching you with its centrally placed jewel, the Apple Watch will literally not just watch you, it will monitor you. It will tell you, Apple, your blood sugar, if you fell, if you're sweaty, it will do everything.
It will also talk back to you.
Oh, it will advise you. It will recommend. It will give you unsolicited advice on how loud your environments are. It will literally do everything.
You were just in a car crash. Have a snack.
No, but it does actually detect the car crash.
I know. That's why I say.
Oh, okay. Because it does. Yeah, there's a snack in the glove compartment. The emergency services have been dispatched.
Okay, you just crashed, and your blood sugar is low. You're gonna die either way.
The value of the chat is suggesting that what Kevin may have been referring to might have been this pair of characters, Bunsen and Honeydew. That ring any bells? No? No.
Kevin knows his Muppets. Come on.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Thank you very much.
So David, how'd you vote?
I voted ahead. I think it's a great product. It's a great thing. I don't like it when watches and cars are referred to as products, but it is a product, unfortunately. But it's well done. I think people will love wearing them and hopefully transfer over to some Swiss watches or German watches or Japanese watches or whatever else, other than an Apple Watch. But I think it's a great gateway drug.
Great gateway drug. Ariel, you voted hit. Do you think it is? I think that was everybody's hope in the Swiss watch industry, that this was a gateway. That was a kind of the PR spin they put on it when presented with it originally.
No, that was that's what I told them. They were scared it was going to kill them. I said, don't worry, this will make some of the people buy your more expensive stuff. And that's ended up being true.
Do you think it is true?
Yes. Again, as we said earlier, Apple has serious reverence for watches. You can't have a conversation about the Apple Watch and speak negatively about traditional watches. It it kind of celebrates traditional watches in a way. And by virtue of making all these different versions and all these different cosmetic things, it is teaching people, switch it up a little bit, change things. Yes, Apple would like you to wear it and nothing but it forever. But, you wear the Apple Watch most of the time, and then the rest of the time you have some cool watch. And understanding the Apple Watch and appreciating the Apple Watch makes you appreciate the other watches because you'll spend more time looking at your wrist. I think they've done a great job. And for all those people out there that aren't going to wear a traditional watch, they'll wear one of these and make us feel better.
Matt, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, I voted maybe. These wearables they're just not really my bag, baby. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little meaningless to me. I wish they were a little smaller. I think what's interesting me more right now is wearable rings. But it's the fact that it went bigger is maybe a miss to me. But it looks nice. I'm sure it'll make a lot of people very happy until it's no longer supported or something.
Hey, Guy, would this ever make you happy?
No. I gave it a miss. Straight out.
Look, see that one there? It's a black watch.
Even that is not going to do it. I mean, the face is black. It's just plain black.
And the new Ultra, all they did is come out with black. There's nothing new about Ultra other than black.
I am going to also call, I can't remember who it was, but yesterday, I was listening to last week's episode when I was walking my dog yesterday, and someone gave the Mad 1 a miss and said, all they've done is make it a bit thinner.
That would be me.
You can't give the Mad 1 a miss and go, all they've done is make it a bit thinner, and then look at an Apple Watch where they've made it a little bit thinner and a little bit bigger.
But they've made this. But hold on. They've made this thinner and do more. They made the Mad 1 thinner and do less.
The Mad 1 you could never tell the time on anyway. It was a fidget spinner.
Exactly. And so it's a miss.
And what they made it, there's nothing it didn't do that it needed to do anyway.
Tide times. It lets me know the tide because it's very important.
Don't Nixon watches do that. Doesn't the internet do that?
True.
You do not need the time on your wrist. I'm pretty sure. I mean, maybe if you're in California surfing, the guys in California who are surfing, who for some reason can't get to their phone to check the tide times.
Matt looks like a surfer.
Once you have the tide on your wrist, you're never going back unless you have.
To be fair, Ariel, I have never had the tide on my wrist, and I live a mile from the sea, and I've never had the tide on my wrist. So maybe you've got a point. Maybe I'm missing out on something.
Yeah, but once you have, you're like, oh my god, I can't go near the water without this.
FOMO tide alerts. Kevin, how did you vote? Thanks, Kevin. That's good. Right, let's.
At least you remember me this time.
Yeah, true.
I voted a maybe. Obviously, I'm not an Apple person. Fortunately, I know that's going to go down very, very well. But I'm a Samsung guy. But basically,
all right, it's not that you're not an Apple person. It's all right. Okay, good. Right, I thought you were saying you didn't like the watches. It's that you're something else. Oh, that's even worse.
Oh, I'm something else indeed. Definitely. It's going to sell loads. I mean, they've increased the size. I don't know why. Maybe they've added additional sensors. They're going to sell loads, and it is going to be a gateway drug. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Certainly, the Swiss market will hopefully agree with you. So it's going to be a gateway drug to more Swiss, Chinese, Japanese, wherever they're made watches in the future.
Just watches.
So that's it. But yeah, they're going to sell loads. And next year there'll be another version where they're going to make it a millimetre smaller. And that's what they're going to do, change it up again. But yeah, it is what it is.
Indeed. Right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. If you've taken part in the chat on aBlogtoWatch Weekly Live, then thank you very much. Remember, if you listen to this show on a Thursday, if you can't wait for a Thursday or a Friday for the show to drop, then you can go to YouTube, aBlogtoWatch Weekly Live, and watch the live recording where there are some little extra bits at the beginning and at the end if we can be bothered. Other than that, you can also contact us on WhatsApp, +44 7386 690 897. And if you send us a message via that or via the email address podcast@aBlogtoWatchWeekly, then you might get an invite to our wee private WhatsApp group. And, you might get a chance to come on the show and play Hit Miss maybe along with everybody else. So other than that, thank you.
Where's the jingle, Rick?
I don't have. Yeah,
Who's done the jingle?
I've got a jingle.
I asked him to sing it as well, Kevin. He wouldn't do it.
Oh no!
That's for the.
Come on.
That's for That's the extra time at the end. So if
You
you
just
go
strum
to
a small like ukulele while singing it.
I want bagpipes. I'm going to be crushed if it doesn't have bagpipes.
Okay,
That's so slow, though. It's going to take him
Pause on
like
Ripley.
70 seconds to say the whole phone number.
I will organise a bagpipe jingle for the phone number.
Oh.
And,
I also you need one of those old school, those old school American alphanumeric phone numbers where you make it into like a 1-800 kind of need jump.
Yeah.
You guys don't have those? You're missing out.
Well,
No,
No, we don't.
can
have
anyone
that.
figure out for me what 07386690897 is while we're standing here?
No,
No.
Definitely not.
Well,
but maybe
we'll
on the chat someone could submit next week.
yeah.
We'll work that out for next week. Good stuff. Right, well, we're going to stay online for a little bit of extra chat for the live show. But for those listening to the podcast, thank you very much for joining us. And we'll see you again next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.